Hello there everybody, Fast the LEGO Studios here, and welcome back to week number 2 of building up a LEGO life-sized Captain Rex. This week's episode we have quite a bit planned, so without further ado guys, let's jump right into it. Alright guys, and jumping right away into week number 2 of building up Captain Rex here, progress that I want to get done in this week's episode is about to get the entire faceplate of Captain Rex all lowered down a single Lego brick. Reason being is because as I've been looking at quite a lot of reference images, I've noticed that as this kind of slope here finishes off, it right away jumps into the mouthpiece. In my case, it's slightly different, having a brick and then the mouthpiece, resulting in a slightly stretched out face in the end result, and it doesn't really look too good. So what I'll be just about doing is just about getting the entire faceplate lowered down a single brick, and it should fix every problem that I possibly had. And then as goes for other things that I want to do in this week's episode, is about to get this weld pattern going right the way off the side here, getting an engravement of how it's all going to look. I already have the form, the basic template of how the entire build looks, so now all that is left to do is kind of get the template of how the entire kind of weld pattern is going to be going in here and curving right the way up here. And then as goes for other progress that I want to get done is about to get all this open space going on up here just filled in with more bricks and plates, flushing it all out and getting a really nice result in the end. And then probably by this week's end episode here, we'll be going ahead and doing his beginning to glue, hopefully beginning to glue requiring a complete destruction of some of the parts on the build, and then reconstruction once the glue has been applied. But time will tell, and we'll see what progress we can make going into the build. But with all that being in mind, guys, let's jump right the way into those progress updates. Alright guys, and starting off the week's progress updates, a lot has changed right off the bat. You guys can see that all this area here has all been removed, and soon enough will be coming back, but for now I've removed it for the reason being that I want everything that we have going on to being plates. At least all the curved surfaces on that build to be plates. Soon enough I'll be getting all that done, but right now as I stand it's all just little chunks of bricks and plates all scattered about. So it's not too much to be looking at, but once I get some progress I'll be getting back to that area there. Other progress that we've got going on though is just about all of this here. The mouthpiece has gotten lowered by a single Lego brick, and I'm quite satisfied with how it's already looking like. It looks a lot more like Captain Rex, and what we have going on up here though is just about the weld pattern that I was talking about before. I've gotten a head start on that. You guys can see that we've got the texture pattern with nougat and dark tan plates going all the way down, getting an idea of how that curvature is going to be playing a role, and seeing how that is all going to be looking like in the end. Apart from that there, other progress that I've gotten done is about this slope going right here. It looks really nice in the end result so far, and I'm quite happy with how it looks. And then finally, as goes for this here, this reduced by a scale of 1 brick, just as I did with the rest of the mouthpiece going right off the side here, and in the end result I'm quite satisfied with how it looks once again, and it looks a lot better all being a slightly smaller scale. But with all that being in mind guys, let's move on to the next progress update. Alright guys, progress update number 2 here. I have made even more changes once again. This time around, I've changed up the build for the visor of Captain Rex's helmets, and this visor here is not the very same one that you guys saw at the beginning of the episode. I've went ahead and changed it out completely, started from scratch, brand new iteration, as I've noticed some very slight inaccuracies between this one and the one on the Clone Wars TV show. So I went ahead and changed all that out, and it's already looking a lot nicer in the end. But taking a closer look at those changes, starting off is I've got this a lot more smoother look to the build, a lot more sleeker look with these cheese slopes and slopes going downwards, getting that much more fine down curve, or not curve, but really nice straight lines going down. Really happy how that all turned out. Before it was all just really blocky, and it didn't really make too much sense from there on out. Now I'm liking it a lot more. Other progress is a really very minor change to the build, but right about here, you guys can see that there's a plate layer, and then there's bricks placed on top. Before, it was just linear Lego bricks being placed all the way throughout, and it made a very kind of static build to the entire visor. I've went ahead and changed all that out, and now it is looking a lot better in the end. I'm quite satisfied with the results so far, but as goes for what else I've gotten done here is the weld that I have going on up here. I'm just about experimenting with how this is all going to look. Nothing is permanent here. Experimenting once again with like the textures, just as I did with like down here. Getting an idea of how this is all going to look in the end. Getting that dome up here with the phase 2 and phase 1 weld. So that is all experimentation here, so that is all to come in the future. But with all that being in mind, guys, let's continue with building up Captain Rex's helmet. Alright guys, and jumping right the way into progress update number 3 here, you guys can see that I went ahead and got the entire weld pattern really nicely integrated into the build. Utilizing the dark tan plates with medium nougat, it makes a really nice texture in the end, and I'm quite satisfied, to say the least. And then as we begin turning to the side of the build, it really only gets even more interesting from there on out. You guys can see that I've used a Lego snot technique, studs not on top, to make this sideways Lego construction that essentially is just about equal from this width is essentially equal to this height here, making a really nice and consistent flow of the weld pattern going right the way across. And then taking a closer look over onto this little greeble detail, let me pull that out and show you guys a closer look on how that is built. And taking a closer look over on how I came up with this Lego miniature technique here, and the way on how I did this is I've used 3 Lego studs here just about lined up perfectly like this, and a Lego tire. And yes, a Lego tire is a really strange scenario to be using this in, but it worked out really nice and flawlessly. But essentially what happens here is between the first and second Lego stud, the distance there, the diameter of that distance, is just about perfect for the inner diameter of this Lego tire piece. And whenever you combine those 2 Lego pieces together, it makes a perfect, nice and snug fit, and it makes a really nice kind of miniature greeble detail for Captain Rex's helmet in the end result. But with all that being in mind, guys, let's continue with those progress updates. Alright guys, and jumping right the way into the last progress update of building up Captain Rex here, you guys can see that I've went ahead and gotten this entire wall all complete. Quite a success for me here, as I replaced all the bricks with plates, and it now looks a lot more smoother in the end result. Sadly, this area just about under here is not here to stay, because there's supposed to be yet another weld line going under there, and I just about ran out of these medium blue Lego plates to kind of place more under here, and sadly the Lego stores are not going to be open anymore until like the end of March or something like that, so I'm not going to be having too much of an opportunity to be getting parts so I can fill all this area in. So until then, this will have to be postponed and going to have to left like this. But there's plenty more progress to work around the model, so that's not too much of a very big issue there. And then as goes for other things, you guys can see that I've went ahead and made an indent to where all the blue is slightly pushed in, giving the visor some depth and giving it a much more formation to how the entire helmet looks. Quite happy with how all that turned out. But if you guys just kind of step back and look at the model as a whole, it really is coming together quite nicely. But with all that being in mind, let's move out into the outro of the video. Alright guys, and here we are at the end of building up Captain Rex for week number 2. This week around, a lot of revisions had to have been done to last week's episode, but in the end, it was still a blast building up Captain Rex nonetheless. Definitely something to take note of in this week's episode is for a fact that all the very small things in this build add up to the very large picture in the end result. But aside from that there is still plenty of progress to be built up on, such as the back of the build, the top of the build, the other side of the build, so plenty of stuff still left to do as goes for next week's episode. Most likely going to be focusing upon building the back, maybe going to be going up to the top of the build and getting some progress up there as well. But time will tell in next week's episode, so stay tuned to see what will happen. Sadly, we did not get to gluing in this week's episode, as it was a lot of redesigning to do in this week's episode and a little bit of uncertainty to what is going to be going where and what piece is going to be using in what area. So most likely by hopefully next week, we're going to be beginning to glue for certain. I'm just fairly certain because these couple of weeks at the beginning are really the planning weeks to get an idea of what we're looking at and the size, proportion, scale of this entire Lego sculpture to begin gluing the rest of the build. But on that note, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and comment down below in the comment section of what are your guys' thoughts on the Lego Captain Rex life-sized Lego sculpture. But with all that being in mind, keep on building, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye.